Hello, everyone, and welcome back to What's Your Mess? Mental, Emotional, Social Status of Life. I am your host, Tracey D. Armstrong, and I'm back again with another amazing guest. This guest is here to share her experiences, her knowledge, and her mess that has helped to shape her life. But I'm going to be quiet and get out of the way and let her introduce herself. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Laura G. I'm also known as the Destiny Whisperer. I'm the co-founder of Be Significant, and it's a nonprofit outreach. We believe, Tracey, that everyone is hardwired to be a significant influencer. It's in our DNA to want to impact someone else's life. And so we basically help people who are really burned out on religion, or they're directionless, or they're just ready to step into a new kind of exciting spiritual season of their lives. And I'm excited to share with you that we have a very aggressive goal of over 200 women and men to become mentees and mentors.
Okay,
And that's a big goal by the end of this year. And one thing I noticed that, for us, it's not about information, it's about transformation. And when I was watching your podcast, Tracey, and listening to some of your things, I noticed you don't major in information, but inspiration. And I really like that. And because inspiration is the thing that impacts people to move, to take action. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, most definitely. Because we can give people information all day long, but if they're not inspired to actually make that move, then they're just full of knowledge and full of information. But
Right.
I'm so glad you said that. And what you're doing, taking people in a different direction and helping them find that influencer that's within, that's awesome. But I know that's not what you've always done and where you've always been. So let's tell everyone a little bit about one of your messes or a few of your messes that you've come through.
Thanks. As I mentioned to you, when you get to be my age, you got a lot of messes, so you have to ferret through which one you want to talk about. But I guess the one that was the hardest for me was about 12 years ago. My husband and I moved here from Maryland to Florida, and we joined a church. And I told him, Tracey, that I wanted to start a Bible study in my home. And he said to me, Laura, you're going to get in trouble. And I said, why? And he said, because they're not going to like it, that they can't control what you're teaching. And I said, well, I'll tape all my teaching and they can hear everything. He said, just go ahead. I'm behind you 100%. And what happened, Tracey, is the Bible study grew and it grew. And it pretty much grew till there was only standing room only in my house. And it became as big as the evening service attendance at the church. And about 6 years ago, my husband died, and he died really suddenly. And like we were married for 36 years, and I was like devastated. I was just like filled with pain. And then things, have you ever, I'm sure you heard this, just when you think things are as bad as they're going to get, they worse, so they get worse.
Mm-hmm.
I got a real
Yes, and you're like, what's next, right?
right. I got a real punch in the gut about 6 months after my husband died. The elders of the church called myself and a friend in, and they said, well, they chastised us. They didn't like one of the translations we were using, which was the Passion Translation by Brian Simmons. And I didn't use it that much, but I was like, what's this about? I'm totally confused. So I felt like I got, like a double whammy of a punch in my gut and like a lot of ugliness all of a sudden. It was just not nice.
And that was 6 months after your husband had passed.
Yes. And when I was
So,
most vulnerable.
right, that's what I was just gonna say. Tell us, how did that affect you mentally? Because I can't imagine like you're already in a vulnerable position, and then
Yeah.
you're getting called in, and like you said, being chastised as as a
Right.
grown woman, you know, going through this type of situation. How did it affect you mentally?
Well, first I was overwhelmed by my husband's death because I mean, he did everything. He paid the bills, he did the shopping. I mean, I was spoiled. He was totally devoted. He he sheltered me, he protected me. You know, when he died, Tracy, I had to call the bank and ask them how to write a check. I
Wow.
mean, I fill out a check. I hadn't driven for 6 years. I mean, mentally, I was paralyzed. And second, you know, what really devastated me was that I realized what he said about the church was true. And it just, I was like in a stun gun, you know, place.
Wow. And with that, like you said, it was kind of like a paralyzation, not really able to figure out which way to go from there. It was overwhelming. How did it affect you emotionally?
I will tell you, I felt naked. I mean, I felt like I had no identity. First, I was married, and then I was a widow. I'm like, what's a widow? You know? And then I was a beloved teacher, popular, and then I wasn't. So, like every emotion, grief, sadness, bitterness, anger, resentment, it just boiled up in my heart. It flooded me. You know, I filled two journals with all of this stuff. Um, just like my whole identity was ripped away from me.
Right. I can imagine. You say you were married 36
Yeah,
years and then suddenly you're a widow.
right.
With that, socially, I'm trying to imagine how did it impact you? Because I know it had to have impacted you tremendously, especially if your husband was doing everything for you, and now the church is telling you. I'm assuming they're saying, okay, you can't do this Bible study. Did they? Let me ask this because I didn't ask this question. Were you did you have to remove yourself from the church?
No, no. In
Okay.
fact, I was in. You know, I felt very strongly that the Lord instructed me to stay and to just be quiet. And really, what happened socially? It's a good question that you're asking because it really two things. You know, the widowhood was like a whole new ball game, and I knew things had really taken a turn for the worse when one of the men at the church announced publicly that I was up for grabs. And then he apologized, but it made my stomach, I mean, totally sick. I mean, I really felt I was, and then my Bible study, you know, I had, you know, over 30 people and went down to three. You know who your friends are then, don't you, Tracy?
Right,
You know who
exactly.
your friends are, you know? You know, I never experienced that that type of thing before. I was just so much pain in my heart.
I can imagine. And then with that, the social life, your husband's not there, the Bible study has dwindled down. You're not, you know, doing the other things that you used to do. How did your status of life change? Like not just on the social aspect, but like you're saying, like if you went to the bank and called the bank and asked how to write a check, how did everything in life with your level of living, how did that change with all of these things happening?
Well, you know, I was snubbed. You know, I could tell I was gossiped about. I was disrespected. I felt disconnected. One man who I really did. There were several people that really stood beside me and behind me and held up my hands and were really good friends during this time. But for the most part, what I heard, which was really fascinating to me, was I want you to get used to people not loving you. That's not what's important. You cannot look for their approval.
And that's what you heard, right?
I did. I did. And he said, and it's going to happen again because the things I'm going to have you talk about and teach are not going to make some people very happy. So you may as well get used to the fact that you are a disruptor. Okay.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes, and everybody is not going to like what you say and get used to it because it is true. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you can't be going around always looking for others' approval because then you won't walk in the purpose that you were called in.
Exactly. And you know, as time went on, I started to learn more about who I really was,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
what I was made to be. But anyway, it was a, I would say that it was a big, it was a training ground for me.
Mm.
You know, I think
Yes.
the worst things that happen are sometimes the best things that happen, Tracey, you know?
Mhm. Yes, it was training ground because it was preparing you for the things to come and for the things that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so, with all of that, how did you get through? How did you come out of that to where you're able to do what you're doing now?
I think the first thing I had to do definitely was make a decision. And I think that's the first thing any one of your listeners need to hear. If you're in a mess, you're going to have to make a decision. And I had to make a decision whether I was going to stay in that mess or crawl out of it. And I had this weird defining moment. Okay. It was very strange. My brother came, and I remember specifically, he, he took me out. Remember I mentioned to you that I hadn't driven for like 6 years, like 6 years.
Mhm.
And he took me out to the truck and he said, get in the truck and drive. And I was like, no, I don't, I can't, I don't know how to, I don't remember how to drive. I don't even know how to pump gas. And he gave me this, you know, like even though he's 2 years younger, he's a very prominent kind of a guy. And he said, get in the truck. And that moment, I thought to myself, okay, either you're going to get in this truck and your life is going to change, or you're going to go back in that house and you're going to sit there and wallow in your pain.
Mm.
It's like that boom, you know, that moment in time where it freezes for you.
Mhm.
I got in the truck. It was a turning point. And, you know, one of my heroes, I don't know if you've ever heard him, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he says
Mhm.
that everything happens for you, not to you.
Do you? Yep.
And it's a mind shift. And you know, everything happens for you, not to you. And it's how you look at it. And it's what you do with it, Tracey.
Mhm.
What you do with that pain. Can you turn that pain into great victory? And if you don't have that mental shift, um, and I think I guess the second thing that really pushed me was into overcoming my hurts, which is what I'm really doing now. And my pain was inner healing.
Mhm.
Going through life wounded hurts you and everybody around you.
Mhm.
I had this vision, and you know, I ask people to close their eyes and just listen to this vision with me. You'll be able to see. In the vision, I saw a man. He was walking down the road of life, and as he was walking, there were darts being thrown at him from all sides. Darts of guilt and shame, pain, anger, unforgiveness, just by living, just walking down the road. And then all of us, these darts left all these gaping wounds, oozing wounds all over him. And then in the vision, all of a sudden, I saw him being turned inside out.
Mm.
Yes. And I heard the words. So no one could see the wounds anymore, but they were still there, Tracey.
Mm-hmm.
And they affected how he thought, what he said, what he did. And I think that's how most people live. They internalize their hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you ever heard the phrase, it's one of my favorite phrases. If you don't heal what hurts you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
It's a powerful, powerful image, isn't it?
Yes. And it's so true.
Yeah. And basically, I think the process of inner healing for me, so what happened was is that I had so many of these wounds and roadblocks that I was actually trying to help someone else. I was mentoring someone else, and I said, Lord, I can't help her. And he said, that's because you need to do some inner healing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, shucks, okay, I didn't want to do that. um, so, those wounds, the pain of my husband's death, the abandonment that the church had spawned, it made me even more determined to live a supernatural life, Tracey. So I just got sick of hypocrisy and people saying one thing and doing another. And one day I just sat down and I had this come to Jesus meeting with Jesus. And I said to him, look, either I'm going to live passionately, purposefully, I'm going to live supernaturally, or I'm out of here.
Mm.
For the 23 years, I read the book, but I want to live the way I see it being in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting, adventurous, supernatural, laying hands on, and everything changed from that point. And the more I walked in that healing, and the more I started mentoring people, and then I stepped into birthing, and they called me the midwife of destiny seekers.
Okay.
So it's birthing. I would tell people, whether you want it or not, I'm going to pull that purpose out of you.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think, one of the biggest questions, like a lot of people have, is like, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
What's my purpose?
That's my purpose.
Right.
Yep.
And why do I always feel like I'm trudging uphill in snow, or my life doesn't seem to be working? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I received so much breakthrough, because I sought out these questions, and I received answers through people. And the reason I'm talking to you now, it's because one of my mentees, who's a young woman, said, you pivot fast, girl, and you need to talk to people about what you do.
Yes, most
And
definitely. People need to hear this.
yes, and so he showed me one key in particular that made inner healing really work. And it's such a beautiful way of being healed. So basically, I think God took me from being disconnected, disrespected, not knowing, who I really was. And through all of that, just saying to people, you are significant. You have a special brilliance, and you need to discover that. We have a slice of the divine's DNA in us, Tracey. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to uncover that beautiful brilliance.
Mm-hmm. That's
You can
within.
tell I'm just a little passionate about it.
No, for real. And I'm listening. I'm like, yes. And I'm hoping that there's someone, and I'm not just hoping, I know someone out there that's listening that really is in that place right now where they need that inner healing. They need to hear this. They want to birth their destiny, but do not even know what direction or what their destiny is.
Right.
So, with all of that, I do want to ask, like, if someone is going through a similar situation, or if they're in that place right now where they're needing help with the inner healing, like how could they connect with you? Or do you have anything that you do, any programs that you have that could help people that are listening?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, totally. But I want to say that, when I looked at your website, I saw community there. I saw a community there. And one of the biggest messages that I could say to anyone is don't go this alone.
Mhm.
Don't go alone. Tracy, I thought I could handle everything, and I couldn't.
Right.
And yes, we definitely have put together some special things for your listeners, and we also do we have inner healing that we do for people, and we have a process. It's the keys, master keys to your destiny. And if you want, we can take a look at that. You just tell me when, and
Yes, most definitely. You can go ahead and share that with the listeners and the audience that's watching.
All right, because I'm excited about it, because you're right, Tracy. I know that there is someone out there that is in that kind of a mess, and
Hmm.
they need inner healing. I hope everyone can see this. Let's see. It's a special invitation for Tracy's Nest listeners. And so for the first 7 people that respond I'm going to send a link, of course. They'll get an inner healing session. And then we have a live interactive training, and it's called Heaven's Master Key to Wholeness. So that'll be available to them. And they'll have a free membership to our programs, our activities, and our Vision Lab for a month. And then for the next 5, we put together again. They'll have access to the it's an interactive lab, is what it is. One of the things that is important to us is to hold people's hands, to mentor them. You can get a lot of video training, but you can't get the kind of inspiration and mentoring and community that people need to make things happen. You're a teacher, and at any rate, there's the second offer there. And I'll stop the share, but you know how important it is to be with.
Yes. And not just say, here, go watch a video, but
Right.
actually you're right there walking with them through this journey, especially
Doing
this journey of healing. Yes, when they have questions, you can answer them and help them out. Most definitely.
doing life. That's what we do life with people. We have people in Panama, we have people in Dallas, we have people in Colombia, South America. You can still do life with them because there's so much isolation out there, Tracy. And
And this
people,
is and people need it. That's what's like. People need it. People need that healing. People
mhm,
need to heal the hurts from all the things from the past so that they can move forward in their future to the
mhm,
destiny that they have been purposed to be here for. But if they stay hurt and they don't heal themselves and don't work with, like you said, don't try to do it on your own.
you can't, you
You
can't.
can't.
Mhm.
You can.
That,
So those are offers, and I will most definitely have the link for
great.
the offers, and I'll have this at the end of the video. So make sure y'all stay tuned all the way to the end of the video so you can see all of the things that we have to offer for you. And before we wrap up, I just want to ask, are there any last words of encouragement that you would like to leave with the audience?
Yeah. Make a decision that everything happens for you, not to you. Like Tracy said, seek out that inner healing, associate with people that support you. You're only as good as the 5 people that are around you. And they'll strengthen you. Look for mentors that challenge you. Don't look for the easy way out. And I want to say again, you have an inner brilliance that you need to discover. You can become a significant influencer, even if it's to your neighbor, okay? You can impact someone else's life. It's hard-coded in you to do that. And lastly, I'd like to say, keep listening to Tracey's podcasts because they inspire. And the journey is not easy sometimes. And it's especially those times when you feel like you can't do it any longer and you hit a brick wall, that you can turn to Tracey's podcast and hear and get inspired by someone else's journey. And that gives you the courage to go on, because this is a courageous woman. I mean, that's doing this. And you've got to be dedicated to do it week in and week out, right, Tracey?
That is correct.
So
But
kudos.
thank you for that. Yes, no, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And yes, most definitely keep listening and keep watching. And I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your story and thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And I know that someone out there that's listening is going to listen to your story and they're going to be influenced and they're going to be impacted and they're going to be inspired to make a change in their lives.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, Tracey. It's been a blessing, really.
Thank you. So, as we wrap up another episode of What's Your Mess, I do want to leave you with this powerful quote to take with you in your lives. If you want to be sad, keep thinking about the past. If you want to be anxious and worried, think about your future. But if you want to be happy, focus on the present day and be grateful for the things that you do have. Again, this is Tracey D. Armstrong with What's Your Mess. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good one, everybody.